Check, mic, check, 1, 2. Ooh, a little loud there. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Light Diamond Creative Podcast Season 2, the Awakening Audiobiography with yours truly, Martha Nature, out here, just a girl on her own journey, trying to share what she can, sharing gifts. Yes, I come bearing gifts here this season with Audiobiography episode 12. And today's topic is visions and intuition. Yes, you heard me right. We're going to be talking about visions, talking about intuition, both of these as part of the awakening experience. This is what I've experienced personally, and what you may have experienced up to this point might be a little different. We are all in our own orderly path, I suppose. So if I'm experiencing something that you haven't, maybe this information will serve you by the time that you get to it. And if you have any awakening tips, feel free to share in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Let's recap just some of these episodes that we've already done. Now, podcast season 1, the meditation audio podcast, that one was awesome, 17 episodes long. And here in podcast season 2, we've got intro to the awakening audiobiography. We've got college revelations, biology and spirit in episode 2. Episode 3, we've got welcome to the real world, post-college awakening. And then moving on to episode 4, the beginning of Ben's stories. And yes, I recommend checking this stuff out in chronological order, because the way it chronologically fell in my personal experience, I think had a major effect on how all this information was boop, boop, beep, boop, transformed, integrated into life. So feel free to check out the earlier episodes. We're going to be hearing about Ben. All right. And Ben is he's a whole topic. He takes up multiple episodes. We've got the beginning of Ben stories in episode 4, more Ben stories in episode 5, and in episode 6 and episode 7, episode 8, there are more Ben stories. Episode 9, we've got telepathy and powers of the mind, also affected by Ben. And the continuing journey going through the dark night of the soul, going through near-death experiences. These are all aspects of the second season, the second podcast season on Light Diamond Creative YouTube channel. And all of this information is free. I would like to just throw out there, however, that I am investing all of my time, most of my time, all right, I sleep okay, into creating this content so that it can be shared for free. If anybody is in a position to support the channel and would like to send funding, I am creating a program for sponsors, for investors. So feel free to check out all of the awesome content across this YouTube channel so that you can see what we're really working with over here, okay? Really awesome content for the upliftment of humankind as we go through this collective awakening journey, this dark night of the Earth's soul, even, we could say. I would go so far as to say that is what we're experiencing. And I would also go so far as to say that since 2020, collectively, we have been experiencing a great number of challenges, and in those challenges, the awakening process can serve us for being able to identify what is true, and also for having alternative coping mechanisms that allow us to deal with truth as it is seen by us, heard by us. And then what will we do with all of that information? Integrating it into our existence and having this information that we awaken to align us, we can really find a lot of value in the dark night of our souls. I know it just sounds so depressing, though. It is. I laugh because it hurts. All right, what can I do? I've already cried through my dark night of the soul, and now I get to laugh about it. That's one of the benefits. It's one of the perks, people. Going through the dark night of the soul and coming out on the other side means that we have taken, hopefully, bits of wisdom from the experience in those dark places. What will make it worth experiencing all those trials and tribulations is valuing the lessons that we learned along the way. So here we are. Part of the reason I share all this information is because I believe in the power of effective emotional communication. And I believe that sometimes all it takes for everything to change in a positive way is a new perspective, information that alters our awareness and brings us to the point of speaking. Well, first thinking, then speaking, then behaving differently. That's more in alignment with who we are truly, authentically. So here we go, continuing with the Awakening Audiobiography. Thanks for listening. Let's get into visions and intuition. Focusing first in on the intuition. What is that? And we may have different ways of describing what the intuition is to us, and that is okay. What I offer is one of the definitions, how I perceive the intuition, and some of this scientific data that I've been collecting in my own personal longitudinal study as a biologist is very interesting about the intuition. So, what is the intuition? Some people, like I think of Abraham Hicks, would call this the inner self, the inner voice. Some people may call the intuition the gut instinct. Some people may call the intuition the heart space, doing its best to balance out the information that the brain is constantly computing. Intuition to me is really diving into the practice of listening to one's internal state, listening to guidance, listening to the self, coming to know the self and listen to the self enough, trusting oneself in decision-making processes, even based fully on the intuition. And some people think, maybe that's not so intelligent because it's just your intuition, like blah, blah. Hey, I think that collective society has spent a lot of time, and dare I say, even money, to dissociate humanity from our inner voice. There are so many bombarding signals coming in from the external environment, and even pollutants like heavy metals in the water can affect the way we are able to interpret our environment. So we do have some things to work with here, and I dare say that the more we are able to take care of our physical body and optimize the physical, mental, and emotional health, the more clear our intuition gets, because all of the computations of the brain are able to receive messages from the intuition space, which I would consider the combination of the gut and the heart and the brain. It's all of this together. Information coming into the body processing information in various ways to get it to the conscious so that the conscious can be like, hey, I'm going to go in that direction because something about the inside of me tells me that other direction is not the best way to go. These are valid processes that unravel in a biological way, I believe. Not all of this is talked about or studied or is of a similar or same perspective, but I'm here to share what I am finding. So this is it, part of it. Let's say that the intuition is a combination of the mind, the heart, and the gut intelligence. Let's remove the mental aspect of it because we know that we are largely hyperactive in the mental realm, in the brain realm, as far as logic and analyzing and computing and the constant chatter that the brain may give. Unless we are practiced in dropping into the heart and then it finally shuts up a little bit. But let's isolate the intuition into the heart-gut space. And then let's further isolate the intuition into the gut space because I would really like to address the epigenetic factors that affect our gut and the ability of our brains to receive the correct information from the other systems, including the gut. Gut intelligence. The gut is pretty nearly directly connected to and influenced by the environment. Because what is it that is from the environment that comes into the gut space? I'll wait. Yes, it's food. It's what we consume, food and beverage-wise. The gut, as it is breaking down what we choose to put in our own bodies, the gut's intelligence is able to determine different aspects of the environment around us, such as even the quality of the environment around us. Now, some of this is a little skewed because not all of us are getting food from a place directly around us. Let's look at our food consumption behavior, and I think it's fair to say that most of us have our food shipped in from somewhere. Comes in a plastic bag, comes in a box, comes with preservatives because, it just wouldn't have lasted the train ride or the semi-truck ride or the boat ride over here if it didn't. So not all of us are getting our food from the direct local environment. When our gut is doing the computing and reading information about the environment based off what we put in, therefore, it may not read the direct environment, but it is reading the information that we are choosing to put into ourselves through what it is we decide to eat, wherever it is from. The quality of the food matters. Let's talk about quality of food for just a moment. And hey, this is no judgment. I'm not saying that I've not had bad food in my system before by choice. I have been addicted to food, different types of food. I've had my whole fair share of BS when it comes to programming and food. So one of the reasons I'm sharing this is because hopefully it can serve someone who is seeking to align with their intuition and many other things through the practice of healthy eating. But what is healthy eating? There are so many parts of what goes into deciding how to eat and how to do it so that it optimizes the physical, mental, and emotional bodies and spiritual body as well. And social, it's all in there. What are some ways of describing good food? Well, at this point in my life, what I understand and what has showed a positive effect toward my health is food that is non-GMO and does not have pesticides on it. The gut has to do something with that stuff. This is how a lot of people end up with heavy metals and toxins in the body because we have eaten food that has been coated in the freaking pesticides and different toxic metals. These don't just go away. The body has to find a way of coping with these pollutants. And so what is healthy eating? One of the aspects, non-GMO food, organic food. What's another aspect of healthy food? Well, we know, listen, I know you don't want to eat your greens all the time. And I know that maybe some of us even developed a whole issue around not eating greens because we just didn't want to listen to mom or dad. And maybe there were valid reasons for not wanting to listen to mom or dad. But one thing that across the board is correct is that eating organic greens will help the body in immeasurable ways, including heart, cardiovascular health, blood flow, including the body and its ability to break down and reformat energy. All right. So eating greens is an important part of healthy food intake. Now, if, let's say, we're on the other side of the spectrum and instead of eating healthy greens, organic, non-GMO greens and fruit, we are eating a lot of processed food. So this processed food, have you looked at the ingredients? This is why vegan people are always looking at the ingredients. Because someone who becomes vegan has realized that the ingredients that get put into most mass-produced food are addictive, toxic, and put in it to keep you coming back to buy more and supplement it as your food source. But no, that stuff is trash. And I say that as a chip lover, okay? I know. It's tragic. It is so tragic. However, luckily these days there are those alternatives for us so that we can look at the ingredients of what we're buying and be like, okay, check. It works. Minimal ingredients that we can pronounce preferably, and a short list of them. These are just some of the guidelines for healthy eating. And I'll just throw in there too, I'd like to stay focused on the intuition, but I do want to just throw in there that healthy eating is not just to look good, okay? Healthy eating is not just to lose weight. Healthy eating is a way of optimizing the physical, emotional, and mental human experience, because non-healthy eating will degrade our ability to read the environment through the gut. It will negatively affect the gut's processes to eat things that have contaminants in them. If we kind of zoomed down or zoomed into the cellular activity, we could see that even a small amount of these pollutants, the GMOs, the heavy metals, I've seen freaking arsenic on baby food, okay? And that was something that was FDA approved. I saw it with my own two eyes. So we really need to keep our eyes out for these ingredients, because on the cellular level, a little is not a little. A little is 2 or 3 times the size of a cell itself, or bigger, if we're talking about heavy metals within the body. And so in order to maximize our gut intelligence, and in order to optimize the epigenetics, the genetic expression triggered by the type of foods that come into the body from the environment, in order to optimize all that, we need to really be diligent with what we select to come into our body. And I understand that this may have someone approach some addictive issues and habits, but that is part of the healing process. Like if I'm eating a contaminated food all the time, like this bag of chips that is my ultimate favorite, it's my go-to every time I get sad because I'm an emotional eater and I need some sort of comfort. But, on the subconscious physiological level, that emotional addiction has become a physiological addiction because that input of those ingredients goes in every time the emotions get to a certain point. That's a thing that needs to be confronted if someone is searching for optimizing or increasing their personal health. We must be diligent and read the freaking ingredients. It is a whole awakening journey to understand that A lot of these ingredients, the synthetic stuff, the pesticides, the GMOs, really not good for the body. And so here we go into eliminating them, which can be a process. Like for myself, it has taken time to shift habits, and I believe in shifting habits slowly in order to sustainably practice them and not, fall off the wagon. This isn't like a diet I go on for 2 weeks. This is a lifestyle change. I'm changing my entire lifestyle to support what is coming into my body, to discern and choose to intentionally select what comes into my body, to know every ingredient that comes into my body so that I can really be a sovereign ruler of my physical space and come into alignment with the intuition. Because if the gut health isn't very good, then that's going to take my intuition down. If my heart health isn't very good, that's going to take my intuition down a notch. So as I increase my personal health, then I'm able to align with my intuition. I'm able to hear myself better, my gut instincts and beyond. Hear that inner voice better, because the communications between the cells and the neurons and the gut and the heart and the brain is all more coherent. And so those messages that get to the brain can compute in a way that makes sense to my conscious. You get me? The gut is involved with the intuition, I dare say. And so is the heart, but we're saving the heart for our next episode. Let's get into a few, let me tap back into, just for one more moment, the epigenetic potential of the foods that we bring into our bodies. And let's think about how we'll go down the healthy route. Let's say that all of these things we're bringing into our body, or 80% or 90% of these things that we bring into our body, positively affects our health. So our health increasing means that all of our senses get better. Sight will get better. Hearing will get better. Taste will get better. Sense of smell, touch, all of these senses will get better because we're optimizing on a fundamental level through the nutrition, affecting all of the genetic expression in different and positive ways, so that we can sense our environment, not just through the gut, taking in the food from the environment, but through our ability to perceive the environment with these 5 basic senses. And as we get really cleaned out, these subtle senses emerge so that we are actually able to detect even more about our environment from further away. And this, I think, is also related to the electromagnetic field. The electromagnetic field of a person is affected by the food that is consumed, along with a lot of other things. But specifically with food, let's say we're optimizing the cellular and bodily system-wise functions through food, then the senses come into alignment. We come into alignment with the inner voice. We're able to tap into those messages easier. Our brain is able to do something with them that affects us positively. So that was just a little bit more of the subtle senses before we tap into the visions. Because here we go. I believe what I have found, due to the increase in my health because of reasons like what I'm illuminating to you, I have received an increased amount of visions and dreams, an increased amount of messages from my intuition, from the gut, from the heart, being sent to the brain, and the brain computing the messages, sometimes in the form of a vision. Vision during wake, dream during sleep. some examples of visions that I have had along my path. And if you've been listening, you know that, we're pretty open over here about experiences, because I just think that that is valuable and it's good to share. So let's bring it back to a vision that I had one night when I was with Ben. And if you've heard the most recent episodes about him, you're definitely more tuned into what I'm talking about. What I will briefly recap about Ben is that he ultimately died of addiction, and we were together, which had there's a lot in that experience, and one of them was receiving visions in a way that I had not before, partially due to his influence when it comes to naturally going mushrooms. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So what I will say about that is that, yes, I had an experience of being intoxicated with him under that influence. And when that was going on, it was nighttime. There was a fire outside. This is when the vision took place. And it was so profound that it blacked out my normal vision. We were next to the campfire, and I was sitting on Ben's lap, okay? Everybody get over it. It was 6 years ago. And as I was seated on his lap and facing him, I remembered picking up more about him than I had outside of that intoxication state. What I was perceiving, I kept getting drawn to his arms. And later, I would understand why, because this guy was still shooting up and addicted to drugs like heroin. Did not know that at the time. But when I was in this state, I remember brushing my fingers down his arms and having an understanding that he was really struggling and that it had something to do with his arms. And I told him, in kind of an enthralled state of knowing that I will be your vessel. I told that to him, I will be your vessel. And I didn't know what that meant. And that wasn't even to the point of having the vision yet. That was before, as all of this information of the environment was coming into my senses, through my gut, through my heart, and computing into my mind with these activated extra sensory abilities that things like what we're talking about can bring on. And so I said, I'll be your vessel. And I'm glad to honor that with these words I share, these Ben stories. I'll be your vessel, although I didn't know what would happen later, which was his death. But that night, after coming to that understanding and telling him I would be a vessel, I remember like a little bit of a creepy vibe coming up because of this song that came up. And if you know about, this type of intoxication, the setting is very important. It really needs to be medicinally administered in a safe space with clear intention, okay? It's not something to abuse. This creepy song came on, and immediately I caught that vibe, and I was like, oh, suddenly shifted. I'm creeped out a little bit. That was a little eerie. The tone this music has taken on. And there I am on Ben's lap, and I decide to lean in and give him a kiss. Halfway to his face, my vision went black. And in this blackness, it was almost as if I saw what I did see. I saw what would come. I saw that I was at a point of deciding I had to live no matter what, because I had a family. And in this vision, I thought of them: my brother, my sister, my mom, my dad. I have a family I have to live for, and I have to get out of here. And in the vision, I see myself in this darkness, grabbing my things and leaving, running out, closing the door behind me. And the way the vision looked, it really was in blackness, and my eyes were wide open. It wasn't blackness, it wasn't darkness, and it was almost as if I was watching some sort of like old school cartoon where it's just like the moonlight on the silhouettes, watching myself grab my things, watching myself go through the decision making of I had to survive, I had to get out of here, grab my things, going into the house, going out of the house, shutting the door and out. And all of this happened in such a short amount of time, in that halfway point of leaning down to kiss Ben. And so I finished, the vision ends. And it freaked me out. I saw myself running away from the very situation I was in that moment. I was freaked out. And so I abruptly kind of stopped from going into finish or start this kiss. And I backed up and started to freak out a little bit. And Ben, I couldn't quite convey at that time what I had experienced, what were the details of the vision, or that I had even had one. All he could see is that I went from going down to give him a kiss to backing up after blipping out, and that I was starting to freak out a little bit. So he soothed me out of it, and that was that. And then it was months, 2 or 3 months later, where I ended up actually leaving Florida, leaving Ben while he lived, because of the information that's in the last episodes. You'll have to check them out if you haven't. But I left that area. I grabbed all my things. I thought about who I had to live for, and I left. And as we know, if we have been listening, Ben died 1 week later. But I knew as I was about to leave that I had already seen me leave, and this was about me surviving, and I had to survive this situation. I had to get out, and I saw the vision of it happening months before it happened. To me, this is the intuition revealing itself with visions, the pictures that maybe the brain will understand, maybe the gut and heart and all of what they know, all of the information about the environment, maybe all of that can be converted into a file that makes sense in the brain, a picture or a series of pictures, so that the full conscious body knows more about what is present and what to do. This is what I think visions are. And dreams, too. They're a way of computing the information picked up by the intuition through the gut, through the heart, about the environment. And the clarity and recall of these visions will be positively affected by increasing our personal health, because increasing our personal health in XYZ ways will help us listen to ourselves and trust the information that we are picking up in ways that we don't fully understand. There have been other visions, like after Ben died, it was probably within the first year and a half, I was thinking about him, which wasn't totally out of the norm. I was thinking about him, though, and for the first time, I saw him in my mind's eye. And when I saw him, he was in the clouds with the Anjali Mudra praying. I only saw the upper half of his body, and that his eyes were closed, and that his hands were in prayer position, and that he felt really happy. And that vision, I don't believe is something that I would, create out of nowhere, because I knew the status of Ben. I knew the status of Ben through some dreams, too, that he had been brought to a place for spirit
rehabilitation, we'll say.
And so to receive that vision was unexpected. And we might ask, well, how would one even receive a vision like that about a spirit side experience, like someone who had passed in the clouds praying? How would the heart and gut be able to pick that up about the environment? And a lot of this is still pretty gray area and new territory. Science and spirit continue to find these overlapping realms where one proves the other, or one is present and then the other illuminates it. So what I would say is that, well, I'm with the mindset that I have guides and a spirit team who are present. And I also know that when his death occurred, it felt like half of me died because we were so connected in a lot of ways. And so I think that these entanglements, these energetic entanglements, last across physical reality. And so I think that I was picking up something about him in a subtle sensory experience. He was revealing himself to me, maybe, or maybe the angels were. But I think all of this is in a subtle sensory experience that can be explained by the body's incredible ability to pick up information around us, even information from realms that are unseen. And I'll share one more vision that I had before I wrap this episode up. This vision, maybe I should share a different one with you. I'll share 2 more visions. We're going to wrap this up. So one vision is that as I decided to start meditating through the grace of Vajradarshan, who offered me all of this free information and helped me get started with my meditation practice, after finally getting into meditation and starting to feel some results, I had a vision, and it happened many times I would see this. It was like I was walking back from hell. It was as if I could see myself on this path coming back from how far I had gone. And there were these entities on either side as if I'm being let out of the gates. And I'm able to make my way back to mental clarity and health, to physical health, to emotional health, back to heaven. Okay. So seeing this vision, that was a way I think that my brain was trying to compute the intuition and reveal to me that yes, in fact, I had turned around. And yes, in fact, I had been in a dark place. I had been in a mental and emotional state of hell. And because of these practices, I began to make my way back, the long journey back. The final vision that I'll share is one that came in 2020. And in this vision, now mind you, all of this internal experience is affected by what we consume, and not just food and liquid wise, media wise. And I had intentionally separated myself from the media by not having a TV in my house and not having Wi-Fi, and spending minimal time on my phone, even for work, really beginning to dissociate from society here. And I have found in this personal longitudinal study that increases the abilities of the extra sensory experiences, increases the ability of the mind to comprehend the signals from the gut and the heart, and the environment at large. So in 2020, I had a vision that, and again, visions are in wake, dreams are in night, visions are in wake. This vision where I saw the earth in space, and it looked like the earth was made up of giant puzzle pieces, or we could even say tectonic plates. And all of these plates, all of these puzzle pieces lifted off the surface of the earth, moved around into a new organization, and compressed back down onto the surface of the earth. And this was during all of what made up the 2020 experience. We could talk about COVID. We could talk about the schmashmeans, okay? We could talk about the schmasks, okay? We could talk about the government influence on social experiences. We could talk about the racial tensions because of blatant racism. We could talk about all of what was going on in 2020, and some of it largely we don't know about because a lot of what came up is a distraction. We're not going to go too far down that road. What I'm saying is the vision revealed to me a reorganization of Earth as we know it. And so when I received that vision, the puzzle pieces coming off, shifting and dropping back down to earth, I took that as I am partially responsible for the way this world is reorganized. At least on the individual level, I am responsible for the way that my life is organized, and it is much different than it was before 2020. It is undeniable the shift that occurred in that year. And so part of it is, well, who's behind the scenes and reorganizing it and what are they doing with this organization and blah, blah, blah. But then what am I going to do with this? And I decided to make the most of it, even though there were moments of incredible difficulty. And one of the ways I dealt with it is the alternative coping mechanism that is meditation, people, and really shifting towards consuming only what is good for me and figuring out what is and what is not so that I can optimize all of my senses, so that I can develop a relationship with my intuition, so that I can receive visions that are important and make the best of this experience with the knowledge that I have. That's episode 12, People, Visions, and Intuition. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you on the next episode. This is Light Diamond Creative on YouTube, Instagram, Venmo, Cash App. If you all are feeling generous and you want to support the continued free output of all of this awesome information, feel free to donate to Light Diamond Creative. Peace.